Hey guys, welcome to the Skolo Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. If you're new to the channel and if you haven't subscribed yet, please click on the subscribe button at the bottom of the video that you're watching right now. It's that red button over there. Just click on it and turn on the notifications so that you'll be notified every time we produce a new video on this channel. We generally produce new videos on a Wednesday and on a Saturday, and sometimes only once a week. It depends really. Sometimes our videos are very long and we then only produce one video a week instead of two. All right. And if you're new to our channel as well, we always make sure that we give you all the information that you need to follow along with the videos that we produce. So at the bottom of the video, right next to where the description should be, there is a button over there that says shows more. You can click on it and it's going to expand the description. Okay. So if we discuss about, a link or, something that was, I say to you, I'm going to link it in the description below. You're going to find that link over there. All right. And for every video that we make as well, we have timestamps to help you navigate through our content a little bit better. As you can see, a lot of our videos are very, very long because we explain all of our concepts in great detail. Okay. So instead of watching the entire 3-hour video, you can just read through the timestamp and figure out which part of the video you want to see. Of course, you're welcome to watch the entire video, but if, for example, you're coming back and you wanted to remind yourself of something, you can use the timestamp. Okay, the way that timestamps work is if, for example, you want to, figure out, oh, this is how I want to do a tweet with an image, just click on the timestamp over there, and it's going to fast forward and take you to that section that is talking about that. Okay, so this helps you navigate through the videos that we're making. Okay, you don't have to watch the entire video. Okay. So on the description as well, we will have links to our YouTube, Instagram, and all of that, so feel free to follow us on social media so that, you can learn more about Skolo Online. In this lecture, we're going to be doing something that is really, really interesting. We're going to combine a couple of things that we've learned in previous lectures into one and create a chatbot that's going to be deployed on a Facebook Messenger. So Facebook Messenger, it's like something you would have on your Facebook page. And let's say you're running a business and then clients want to contact you on a Facebook page and they send you a message. And usually if you're really, really busy entrepreneur, you have to find time to go through all your messages and respond to them. So in this lecture, we're going to show you how to use Python, and instead of having to be constantly available on your Messenger Facebook page, you could just build a chatbot to do that for you. And when somebody sends you a message, your chatbot would respond. And if you build a chatbot that is extensive enough, especially if you follow our chatbot tutorial that we did in a couple of weeks ago, you would be able to build a fully functional chatbot that I think even somebody on the other side would not know they're talking to a chatbot, because it will be able to give them all the information that they need. And this is a really useful skill that you can build on your own business page if you have, or you can sell to clients, and you can build clients chatbots that help them manage their communication on the social media platform. This is becoming a very useful need in a lot of small businesses, because it's getting harder and harder to manage all communications on all platforms and keeping engaged with your clients. So follow along, and we're going to take you through how to get that done in this lecture. Okay, so the first thing that you need, obviously, is that you need to build a chatbot. And we're not going to cover this in this lecture because we covered it extensively in how to build a chatbot lecture, which I'm going to link in the description below. So let's say you've done the chatbot, then the next thing is we're going to do a webhook. And a webhook is just a fancy way of saying, really, we're going to build an application that's got an endpoint that is just waiting and listening. And on that endpoint, every time somebody sends you a message on Facebook, on your Facebook page, that message is going to come across that endpoint, and then you're going to be able to get access to it and then process it and do whatever you want to do to it, respond, or perform some action also of sorts. Then we're going to host that application in HTTPS. This is a requirement of Facebook that you're going to have to host this application on HTTPS. You won't be able to do this off a back end that is on an HTTP server. So you're going to need an SSL certificate, and as a result, you're going to have to actually host your app somewhere online. And that's why we did the tutorial that we did last week, where I was showing you how to host a Flask application on an Nginx server. So you can use that tutorial from last week, and you just need to install an SSL certificate on that website. And you can also use a Chatbot to get a SSL certificate for free, and you can just have a look at the Chatbot documentation. It's actually easy how to do that. And then you can get HTTPS server because you're going to need to have your app sitting on an HTTP server for you to be able to use this Facebook API. Then that's the hard part. Once you've gone through all of that, you can continue, right? So we're going to create the app that is listening on this webhook endpoint. And when we get messages through that endpoint, we're going to process them and then give it a response. All right. And then we're going to build the chat and then connect to Chatbot engine, and then we're going to be done. So these are all the steps that we're going to follow in this tutorial. And let's get started. So this first part is already done. We're going to go straight into building a webhook. Okay. So let me show you over here. If you go to the Facebook developers website, and I will also link this in the description below, there is a lot of tutorials and they're all over the place, but I'm going to help you organize your thoughts in this lecture and tell you exactly where you need to go to find the tutorials that you need for this specific exercise. So the first tutorial that's important is this one, that is a Quickstart tutorial. It actually takes you through the whole process from the beginning and testing and getting, and it even has sample code, but the sample code is written in JavaScript. So if you're working with JavaScript, you can actually just get the sample code from here and use that. But because we're working on Python, we will be rewriting that code in Python, okay? And it shows you exactly how to create your app and how to get your access tokens, and then how to sort of test the webhook, and how to get the ID for the messaging, how to respond to a message. So everything that is in here is what we're going to be doing, but we're going to be doing it on Python. And then I will link this in the description below, and then you can read it obviously in your own free time. And then we're going to combine this tutorial with the messaging API tutorial, which is this one over there, which actually shows you how to create the post requests towards the messaging API endpoint on the Graph API for Facebook with your page access token. So this shows you how to do all of that, and I'll show you this, but this actually is already combined. The coding for this is already combined in JavaScript format in this Quickstart tutorial. Okay, so when you follow the Quickstart tutorial, you should be okay, but I'll be doing all of this in Python, all right? So to get started, you need to get obviously a text editor, and as usual, I like to use Atom. So get your Atom ready, and then let's get started and create a Flask application. Okay, so that's what we're going to need. So let me see where my Atom is. All right. So here's my Atom over there. Okay, so to create a Flask application, I've written the code ahead of time to save you time, but I will make it available to you if you want. But I will also go through it very slowly, and you can actually just go along with this video as I'm going. So the first thing, obviously, you need to import from Flask. You need to import a Flask, and you need to import request, and then you need to obviously install Flask and install requests and import JSON. And don't worry about this, I'll explain this a little bit later on. Okay, so we're gonna need these code editor, and we also need a place where we're gonna be running our code from. Okay, and as usual, I like to work off my virtual private server, because as soon as I finish running this code, I'm going to deploy it, and you might as well just write it in a place where you can deploy it. All right, so within I'm gonna be working on this virtual server and on this text editor at the same time. So just keep those open next to each other, so that you can work through all of them as we're going along. All right, so inside of a virtual private server, actually let me just start from scratch, because I've already done this, and let me just show you how you would get started if you had not done it before. So I'm going to CD out of here, and okay, so let's clear this. All right, so inside the place where you want to work from, okay, you're going to start by creating a directory. Okay, so do something like mkdir, okay, and then create whatever directory you want to create. So in this case, I'm going to call this directory learning, let me see, MSG, yeah, mkdir MSG. Yeah, let's call this MSG. I'll delete it later on. Okay, so we're going to create a directory called MSG, and then immediately let's just cd into this MSG. All right, then we are in the directory called MSG. And then over here, you want to create these files, 3 different files that you want to be working with. Actually, you need only 2 files, okay? You need a config4 file and then a learning, or app.py. So what you need to do is to say touch. You can just use touch, and then you can use touch. You can say app.py, it will create an app.py file, and then you need to create a file called config.py. All right, just like that. And then if you list, you'll see all your 2 files that have been created over there. All right, so the app.py file is where we're going to write all our Python code, and the config file is where we're going to put in our page access token so that we separate it off the app file. And when you share these files, you only need to share your app file and forget about the config file, because you don't want to share your access tokens with strangers, okay, or anybody else. It's a secret that you mustn't reveal to anybody else. So inside of the config.py file, you can open it by saying nano config.py. Okay, let's not open it here because we don't have our access token. We'll get to it later once we regenerated the token. So let's actually just open nano app.py, and I'm going to show you the code that needs to go into the app.py file. All right, and you need to install a virtual environment. All right, and to do that, you need to say virtual env virtual env, and we're going to call this MSG env. All right, and then it's going to create a virtual environment called MSG env, and I'm going to just list it, and you'll see it's a folder that looks like that. And then you need to then say source MSG env bin activate. And this will activate your environment, and you can run all your code inside of your environment, and you'll see it will be in brackets at the beginning of your line over there, and you can start working off of this. And then we need to just install, then you can do pip install. You need to install Flask, you need to install requests. Okay, so if you look at the top over here, you can see all the things that you need to install. You need Flask and you need requests. Okay, JSON and config is a folder, and JSON is standard in Python. Okay, so if you just do all of that, it will install requests, and it will install everything for you. Okay, and you can just quickly check to see if all of this is installed properly by typing Python, and then just copy this line of code and do that. And if you don't get an error, it means it imported it properly, which means it installed it properly, and you can do that. And you don't get an error, then you can do exit and close the bracket, get out of there, clear it, and then you know that you've imported and installed your things properly. All right, then once you've done that, you just need to enter this line of code. App is the Flask. Okay, so from Flask, you import Flask and request, and then this Flask is the one that we're going to use it to generate the app object. And then you're gonna then create a secret key for your app. Pick any random secret key that you want for yourself, and make sure it's something that people cannot easily guess, because this protects the security of your application. All right. Then once you've done that, app config secret key, we're gonna create a simple root and say so I'm gonna just a simple root that says we just want backslash, there's nothing on there, and the methods is get and post, and then we'll just return the words home. All right, we're going to simplify this a whole lot. We don't have any templates, we don't have any HTML in this, because we're going to be using this app for as a webhook, so we don't need all of that. Right, that's why you'll see we've only installed Flask and request. And then the webhook root, we'll get to it, but for now let's just copy this. Actually, let's copy that first. So let's do nano app.py. All right, and then we paste the first part where we're just importing stuff, and then we create our app over there and have a simple root, home root. All right, and then we paste that, and then we'll get to this later. Let's just get to the end of our app. Okay, so we need at the end of our app, we need to have this. All right, if event is main, run the app on 888. Okay, so this is all we need. We should be able to access this app on port 888 of our VPS if we run this, and we should just see the words home to test that. You need to do this at this point just to test that your Flask application has been sort of configured properly. So if I close this, yes, all right, and then we just run Python app.py like that. All right, if you don't get any errors, you're good. Okay, and then we need to get our our IP address and just test this on 888. All right, so let's go over here and look for this HTTP. I think it's 4.109 888 like that. There you go. And then you just get the words home. All right. So this home is the only thing it's returning over there inside of your application. So your application is therefore installed properly. All right. So if you do this and you get to this point, you install properly. Then we can have a look at our webhook root. Okay. So create a new root called webhook. And inside of that root, the method is get and post, okay? And inside of your webhook root, the first thing that you need is create a variable called verified token. This means that this verified token is a token that you will keep inside of your application. And every time the webhook from Facebook sends a webhook request, it will have this verified token with it, okay? And then your application will compare the verified token that you have over here with the verified token that you're being sent from Facebook to make sure that the token is the same. This is a way of having it's like two people that want to communicate between each other, and don't want anybody else to be sending their messages except for the two of them. They decide on a secret key so that every time we send each other a message, it will include that secret key. And if you have that secret key in the message, the message is from me. And if there's no secret key in the message, then you can discard it. You don't have to process it. Perhaps the message is not from me, okay? So that's the purpose of the verified token. And then this line of code over here, I'll just go through it very quickly, okay? So Facebook will send a request, and inside that request, it will have three different parameters. The first parameter will be hub mode, and the second parameter will be hub verified token, and the last one will be hub challenge, all right? And inside of these three different, what we call, arguments or parameters, inside of your application, you need to sort of extract these parameters from the URL. And then once you've done that, you need to check off the hub mode is where the verified token is going to be. All right. And then you need to just check that the hub mode is there, and then you get the verified token, and then you compare. Okay, first of all, you check if subscribe is in the mode, and then once you do that, you check that the token is equal to the verified token. So this is what this code is doing. So you check that this verified token is equal to the token that's going to be sent, all right? So the token that's going to be sent from Facebook is going to be sitting under the hub verified token parameter. Okay, so the hub verified token parameter, you will compare that with the token that you have saved inside of your application, all right? And then the hub mode is the mode of the the mode that's being sent from Facebook. You just need to check that a hub mode is equals to you need to check that the mode is equal to subscribe. All right, so the mode is subscribe, and the token matches the token that you have. Then you can say that the webhook has been verified, and then you send back the challenge. All right, and then you send back this, and the challenge is actually the same challenge that would have been sent by them. You send it, you feed it back to Facebook, and if everything is well, you give it a 200 code, or otherwise, if these don't match, you give it an error 403, like they don't have permission to access this URL. This endpoint, and this is what this line of code does. All right. Inside of the documentation, inside of the Quickstart, if you go to Quickstart, and I'll have this link in the description below, right? At the top there, if you just open up the webhook setup, all right, and let's open it over here, all right. This is the code. This is the documentation that takes you through how to set up your webhook, and the code that I've written already in Python over there, this code is just basically what this documentation is explaining over there. So when you have time, and if you're writing this code in perhaps a different programming language, you can have a look at what it looks like inside of written in JavaScript, and you can rewrite it in your own programming language. Or otherwise, you can, if you're working with Python, you can just copy and paste what I have over there. You can freeze screen and have a look at this code, and just this is what the code must look like to verify the token. All right. On the documentation page itself, there is sample code that's available for you inside of GitHub. So if you click download the code, you can go on the GitHub page and you can have a look at the actual, the final, code that you need in JavaScript format. Okay, and it's up to you whether you want to use it that way or write it in a different language. But we rewrote all of this in Python. But there's just a couple of things that I want to just highlight to you inside of the code that is in Java, that Facebook has provided, that I found that I had to edit and work, and do it differently. So JavaScript is not my strongest language, but I can read and understand what it is. All right, and I think this is a get request. All right, and this is a post request, right? But you'll see that on over here, you have a post request on the webhook, and you have a get request on the webhook. And the get request on the webhook is the one that's verifying the token, and the post request is the one that's sort of processing the messaging. Whereas on the documentation, they have a post request that's verifying the webhook. Okay, and what I found with the code was that actually to verify the webhook and to process messages, both of them you need a post request. Okay, it doesn't actually go through the get. It doesn't. Like Facebook doesn't send you a get request. It's always sending you a post request. All right, and so that's something to highlight with this documentation. But if you follow the code that I'm going to show you, it's that way on the code. Okay, so now that we've written the app, you can close it over there. We're just going to clear this, and I'm going to take you through the code for actually processing the messages, the entire final code for processing the message. Okay, and I've written it over here. We've got the app root that is called Webhook, which means that the endpoint that we're going to be using is Webhook. If somebody goes to the endpoint of home, they'll just find this message that says home. But Facebook will give it this endpoint that is called Webhook. All right. And in this endpoint that is called Webhook, we will have a request.method is equals to get, and then we have request.method is equals to post. So what I did while testing this, I found that I had to do my verification process, verifying the webhook. I had to do all of that. I had to do that on the get and on the post because the documentation was confusing. I wasn't quite clear whether it should be a post, it would be a get or a post request. But from my testing in the last couple of days, I found that Facebook actually sends you a post request for even verifying the webhook, not a get request. So technically, you don't need this line of code, okay? But I left it there anyway because it's harmless, because it's just sort of feeding back to Facebook to verify the token. So I just left it there and I didn't delete it. So basically, you need to start over here where if request.method is equals to post, all right? And then you verify the token. And this line of code is just what I was discussing with you earlier on, with all the challenges that you need to do, all right? You need to access 3 different parameters from the, what Facebook is going to send you from the data, all right? Request.arguments. And you need to check the hub mode. You need to check the hub challenge and the verified token, and then you need to check that the token equals to the token that you have over there, and that the mode is subscribed. That's the 2 things you need to do to verify. Once you've done that, then this took me a bit of time to figure this out, okay? Because it sends request.data and then there's request.arguments. It's quite weird, but to access when somebody sends you a message from your from the Facebook Messenger, it comes through in the request.data, request.data, a part of the request object inside of Python, all right? And then, so I access the request.data that way, and you'll see this is the same request, okay? So if, for example, Facebook sends just a verification webhook, it will go through here and verify. But if it doesn't send a verification webhook, if questions will not pass, and then it will pass this, and then it will come over there, and then it will get request.data. Okay, and then the first thing with the requested data, you get the data in byte format. Okay, so you need to decode that data. Okay, so you need to say body is JSON loads and encode and decode that data so that it's in a format that you can work with inside of your code. So once you have decoded the data, then you need to load it as a JSON because it will come as a byte string. Okay, so in Python we have byte strings, and if you have a byte string, you first of all need to decode it, and after you've decoded it, then you need to load it as a JSON. But if you load it as a JSON, then you'll have the actual JSON object that is coming from Facebook that you can then pass and work through the different variables that are available inside of that JSON object. Okay, so that JSON object will come and it will have inside of the object, it will have an object called object. So you will need to find that object called object. And once you find that object called object, you need to get check that that object dot called object is equals to page, and then you need to go through all the entries. Okay, so the entries will be like a list or an array of items. All right, so you need to be iterating through that list. Okay, so you need to go and say in entry for entry in entries. All right, and then the webhook event will be the entry messaging at 0. So the messaging as well will be an array of object. Even though it will be an array of objects, actually only the first object is the one that you need to work with, because there will be nothing else in the other elements of the array. Okay, so you need to get the entry messaging at 0. Okay, and then that will be the webhook event. All right, and inside of the webhook event, you can get the sender ID. All right, and you need the sender ID for when you respond, because when you respond back to Facebook, you need to give them the ID of the message you're responding to. All right, and then after that, you need then to do something with the message, and this handle message function is a function that we're going to write to actually complete a response. All right, and this code that's over here, I got it directly off the Facebook sample code that that is available on GitHub. So I will link this in the description as well for you, and you can go through this sample code as well in your own time. And you can this sample code is 100% correct. It's accurate. I've tested it except for one thing. All right. But because I'm not familiar with JavaScript, I'm not sure whether this is just my misunderstanding of JavaScript or whether it really is a mistake, because on here they have the verifying of the webhook under a GET request under app.get. But what I've discovered is that Facebook always sends a post request for this. All right, and if you have it under GET, you're not gonna be able to verify your token. All right. So so this code is just basically off GitHub. I just rewrote it in Python. All right. So basically that's where I got that from. All right. And then once you've done that, then you need to write the code to handle the message. And the code to handle the message is basically just to respond back. All right. You could even have written it in here, but to save space, I've written it at the top over there. Okay. And to handle the message, basically all you do is that you need to first of all, we check the received message. This is the message that we got off from Facebook. This received message is the one that we're sending over here under handle message webhook event.message. So inside of the webhook event object, there will be another object called message. Okay, and that object called message is the one that you are sending over here, and that you're gonna check if there's text in there. This is just to test the type of message that was sent to you, because typically in Messenger somebody could send a text message, they could send an image, they could send an attachment, they could send a video, even an MP3. They could send anything. Okay, so this is just a way of testing that that the person sent a text message, and if they didn't send a text message, you will not have text inside of that object. All right, we'll have something else. And I didn't write code to test for all the different types of messages somebody's going to send in Messenger. In this specific case, I'm only going to write this chatbot for text messages. So I'm testing for the fact that it's a text message. And if it's not a text message, I'm just going to send a response back that says this chatbot only accepts text messages, so that the person doesn't send anything else. So at least I'm still responding to the person to tell them that I only accept text messages. But if they did send a text message, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to respond back to them. And to respond back to them, I'm just going to write, you just sent me this. All right. And then I'm going to take whatever that received message text. Whatever they sent me, I'm just going to feed back to them. I'm going to say, you just sent me that. Received message text is a text inside of the received message that that the person has sent. Okay, so I'm just responding back to them, saying to them, you just sent me this. This is to test that this whole arrangement works. All right, and then after that, I will send it to the API. All right, and the API function is written over here. Okay, this API function requires the ID of the person that sent the message. All right, and that or the ID of the message itself. And the ID of the message, you're gonna get it from the message, so it comes directly from over there. When you were iterating through all of that object that you got back, you had the sender PSID was part of this webhook event, which was inside of the entry messaging at 0. Okay, so this sender PSID, you'll be passing it through the function, and it is what goes over there. All right, so you need to have that sender PSID, and you need to include it over there. All right, and then the page access token, this one is inside of your config file. I will show you just now how to get the page access token. All right, and then you need to send this payload. Okay, the payload that you need to send back needs to be in this format. Okay, and this, where did I get this from? I got this from over there. On the documentation over here, this is showing you the URL that you need to send it to with your page access token, and then it's showing you what the the message sort of payload needs to look like. I will also link this in the description below. All right, so basically this is where I got this from. Okay, so that's the payload. You need to include the sender ID, which is from there. You need to put your response, which is the response you've already decided, and then you need to say messaging type is a response, and then after that include headers. I don't usually do this, but in this specific case, I found that the Facebook API gets confused and then it doesn't find your payload, because we're actually sending two types of payloads. We have the payload which is sent as part of the URL, okay, which is URL encoded, the access token, but then we also have a JSON payload which is encoded, JSON encoded. So I found that the Messenger API works slightly different from the other APIs we've worked with. You have to specifically specify in the headers the content type. And then you have the access token inside of the URL encoding of the URL. And then after that, you're just going to send the requests. You're going to say send it to the URL, to the payload, send the payload as JSON instead of data. You'll say JSON is equals to that. And then the headers is the headers, and then you send it through, and then you print whatever the response that you get. Okay, so basically this is the code that you need. I'll make this available, guys, on our GitHub page. I'll put the link as well in the description. If I don't do it, just remind me if you want to get this code, and we can test it. But before we can test it, we obviously have to get our page access token, and in order to do this, we need to go to Facebook. And we need to go to our Facebook apps. We need to create an app and get an access token so that we can do this. And we'll do that in the next part of the lecture. Okay, so to get your page access token, you need to go to the developers.facebook page. And by now you should know how to do this if you've been checking some of the videos we did on this channel. But if you get to your developers page, this is all your apps. You can either create a new app if you don't have one. But if you already have an existing app, you can actually use an existing app. That if, for example, when we did the app for automating our Facebook posts on the page, I just use the same app. Okay, so if you go to let's say this app, you can just click on the app. All right, and you don't have to create a new app. You can just add the messenger feature to an existing app. Okay, so if you look at this app over there, you will see under settings. You need to click to settings. All right, and then you go to the bottom, and you'll see these are all the different plugins or uses that you can add to use cases that you can have. You can add to your app. You can do a whole lot of things, and maybe in future we're going to have a look at some of these, but the one that we want is the messenger. All right, so you just click on messenger and you click set up. All right, then once you've done that, once you've clicked messenger set up, you need to go to the bottom over there, and then you need to get your access token. But before you can get an access token, you need to add a page or Facebook page to this. All right, so I'm going to click add a page, and then you'll be prompted to log into your Facebook account. log in, and then I'm going to use the careers portal page for this. All right, and then I'm going to click that. And don't worry about submitting it for the login review as yet. For development purposes, if you're going to use the app as yourself, you don't need to submit it for review. But if you're going to actually deploy this on your messenger platform, you will need to get actually submit it for review, because if other people are going to be using the messaging you and you're going to be responding back to them, you will need to have it submitted for login review. But in this specific case, I'm just going to ignore that and click OK. All right, and then everything is now connected. So if once everything is connected, then you can generate your token over there. All right, so click generate token, and you'll say understand, and then it will show you your token over there. All right, I'm going to delete it later on, but just copy that token, and then you'll be able to use that token. You can go inside of your if you where we're working from. If you list over here, you can say nano config.py. All right, and it will open config.py in here. And then I think, let me just double check what is the name of this variable, page access token. All right, so you can do it like that. You can say page access token. All right, and then you just open close brackets, and then you can then save this file and click yes, and then you've saved your access token in there. All right, so once you've done that, you can then close this, and then you need to then connect your callback URL. Okay, all right, so let's click edit callback URL, and then you're gonna put in your URL over there and your verified token over there. So the callback URL, this is going to be the app, the URL of the place where you have loaded your application. All right, so in my specific case, this is where I have my application set up on an HTTPS server. So you can follow the tutorial of last week and set up and deploy your Flask application that we just built, deploy it onto an HTTPS server. You can use Nginx. The tutorial from last week is very detailed. If you follow it along, you'll be able to do it, okay? Then once you've done it, you're going to get the URL that you deployed it to. Make sure your HTTPS certificate is working. You've got a locked key over there, and then you're going to copy this, and then you're going to paste it inside of the callback URL. But remember, the endpoint is this endpoint that you have inside of your app. So you need to include that endpoint, this webhook. You need to include that endpoint at the end of this URL, okay? Okay, so then this will be your callback URL. So Facebook, whenever you get a message or whenever it wants to communicate your application, it will be sending post requests to this URL. That's basically what that webhook is. And then the verified token, you need to go over there inside of your application, and whatever verified token you had selected here, you need to copy that verified token, and then you need to put it over there. All right, and then once you've done that, you're going to say verify and save. So what it's going to do is that it's going to go check and that your verified token is okay, blah blah, and then it'll do all of that. So once you've done that, you will see that you can check for recent errors, and I do this sometimes, and I see there's no errors, which means that this was done properly without issues. So once you've done that, we're going to what we're going to do is we're going to what am I looking for? Yeah, we need to add subscriptions. Yes, we need to add subscriptions so that we give it, basically any subscription is giving permissions to your app. What permissions do you want it to have? We want it to have messaging and messaging postbacks. These other ones, at this point, you don't need them. So I'm gonna click save. All right, and then that's done. All right, so those permissions are done. And I think that's all you have to do from this side. Okay, you just double check that your token is okay. And everything goes well, okay? And if you, for some reason, like in my case, people have viewed and seen my token and you want to revoke that token, you can just simply come over here and you can remove your, remove pages and remove this application, and it will revoke the token, which is what I will do at the end of this tutorial. Before I actually post this, I will revoke this token, okay? So once you've done that, your application is actually ready to go. All right. So I actually already rebuilt this on a different website because I had to test this before I did the video. And I did it on a different messaging platform. I actually did it for the Skolo Online page. And I'm just going to take you there quickly, and then we're going to work from there. Okay, so I've pre-installed created the application inside of this Facebook page for Scholar Online Learning. All right. Over here, I'll just show you quickly. Inside there, if you check your applications and you go to Scholar Online Learning, where is it? Scholar Online. This is the application that I've already created. Okay, so the process that I just took you through, I've pretty much already done it for this app, and that's the one we're going to be using because I've already tested it, that it works. All right, and you'll see that we've created the access tokens over there, the callback URLs and everything. Okay, so there's a couple, so you'll see that's the app, the webhook and everything. Okay, so we're going to test this app. It should feed back to us, whatever we send to it. So let's try it. Let's try and say hi. Just give it a moment. All right, you just sent me hi. All right, so that you just sent me hi, if you look at our Python code, what we asked it to do was that when somebody sends a message, it will just the response will just be you just sent me, and then it will enter the message that the person sent. Okay. Okay, now for the last part of the lecture is where we will connect the chatbot to our messenger API. So basically, you can respond with any response that you like, but we would like to have an intelligent thinking chatbot at the back end that sort of answers questions and responds to people, and we will use a chatbot we built right here on this channel. But we're running out of time for this lecture, and it's getting a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to end this lecture here, and next week we will do the part where we build it and connect it with the chatbot, so that the chatbot will actually create the response, and you just feedback, you just said whatever they said to you, actually give them an actual response that is relevant to the page that you're working on. So we'll continue with that next week, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.